So now we are very happy to have Jerry with us today. As we returned with his topic of, are we searching for peace and our true self? Jerry, would you enlighten us?
As I was walking here today, and as I'm sitting here now, I feel an urgency. I feel like this meeting and meetings like this all over the world for thousands of years. I've been doing this, we've been meditating, we've been reading spiritual books, we've been doing what we do, and we're still doing it. And it feels to me like the world is offering us an opportunity, a demand right now to all of us human beings to move to the next level, because this isn't going to cut it anymore. ISIS, I'm sure you've all heard of this guy, this force, killing people on TV. It looks to the masses of people like this is this new thing. The armies come in and they cut people's heads off and they torture them. This has been constant through human history. There's no difference. The only difference is these guys know how to use the internet. And it brings this commonality as a horror into our lives. And we say, oh my God, how could people do this? And our children are going off to join these murderers. What's going on? It feels to me like something important is going on. It feels like all of us at some level know that the old is ending and a new is beginning. And here, this is emerging, right? Seemingly the end of the end. So what does this do when we see this horror brought into our living rooms? Most of us, good people, say, oh my God, I would never do that. I can't understand that. That's the most horrible thing in the whole world. That's what we would say in our living room. But again, if you go through history and you look at the effects of war and what people do, this is common. This is what people do. This is what the human being is capable of under certain circumstances. It's not a personal thing. This is the organism we live in. And if we stay consciously identified with this organism and this mind that has continually destroyed us throughout history, we will continue to do so. It's time for a divorce. And we don't have time. Really, we don't have time. I don't know if you heard the news this morning. There was a direct threat to the West Edmonton Mall from the terrorist organizations. They're targeting Canada, they're targeting our shopping centers. This is not going to stop, this is not going to go away. So what's going to happen? How are people going to react to this? They're going to react with the same animal mind that is attacking them. And as we know, if you stay in the same, when you have a conflict at the same level, there's no resolution. It'll be us against them. Oh, they're the bad guys, we're the bad guys. We'll kill them first. That's what is going to happen. That is what our mind does. So, I would suggest that each of us see what the mind is. The mind is not who I am, what you are. The mind is this thing that emerges in consciousness, like any other object. And we can pay attention to it and identify with it, or we can just notice it and move on. But the most important thing is to notice it, to notice when we're thinking, like right now. And we think, we human beings, since we're identified with this mind, that if we follow the mind far enough, figure it out enough, get enough information, then we'll get the answer. But the mind doesn't have an answer. The mind is empty. It's just a machine. We're looking in the wrong place. So every time I notice that I'm asking myself a question in my mind, I can realize I am wasting my time. And then I realize I don't have a hell of a lot of time. I don't want to do this. So I go to another place. I go to the place of identification, what I really am, which is consciousness, which is that which this mind is appearing in, and so is everything and everyone else. I recognize that everything is just me. There's only one thing, consciousness appearing as everything. The mind can't know this. To the mind, oh, that's a really cool idea, you know? And we've been thinking this idea for too long. It's time, really, to let it go. Let the separation go. Let the identification with the little self go. That doesn't mean it's not going to emerge. It means you just stop paying attention to it. I feel, I don't know, I'm very rarely in this position.
Well, it makes sense. Yeah, it's good. Carry on.
So in terms of this ISIS thing in particular, I think it's important, if we want to let go of our ego in this particular case, is to acknowledge in this mind, Jerry, that I am capable of doing exactly what those guys are doing. I am capable of cutting people's heads off. I'm capable of killing and torturing children. I am. And you push me the right way, give me the right upbringing, give me the right food, I'm going to do it. So I recognize that it's not even personal. It's just the nature of the beast. I can forgive that. I can forgive my identification with that. I can say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, there's really no choice when you get to that point. I can forgive that. And as I do, as I accept that violence in me, and I forgive that in me, I can do that to the supposed enemies. When I see them on TV, instead of fearing them and seeing the separation, I say, yes, you're my brother. I know you're hurting. I can be there with you. Just that difference in context in the way we approach these guys and that energy in ourselves can change everything. But when you go, when you hit back with just what you're getting, you just cause more of it. So when you demonize the other guy and say the other guy is worse than you, when he's not your brother and sister, then you've got a big problem. But they are not even our brothers and sisters, they are the same self, just appearing different. So I'm going to take a drink. Anybody want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with all that. That's beautiful.
That was really well said. Really well said. And in the dream the other night, I actually just got comforted because I was worried about, so worried about all those children, and have been since I was 3, and got confirmation similar to what you just said, and how well those little victims are looked after, go through what they're going after. Yeah, thank you for bringing up a hard topic for people to hear.
So this thing to me has to do with this, what we call the spiritual search. You know, most of us would say we're searching for peace, a state of bliss or enlightenment, or however you'd say it, the same kind of thing. That's what we're searching for. And we think that by studying and practicing and meditating and doing stuff, we're going to get to that place. And that's the same error. The place we're looking for is beyond and precedes and encompasses mind. Mind can't get there. It's a waste of time. Picking up the holy book, if you're looking for enlightenment and peace, it's a waste of time, because what you're looking for can't be found there. And as we notice the things that we do in our lives like that, thinking that what we're doing is going to get us to that place, we can stop it already. Don't fool ourselves. Don't waste time. Cut it out. Reading, thinking, listening to tapes, it's not going to get you there. It's going to be very interesting and entertaining, and if you want entertainment, then no problem.
And slightly go inflating. So I am the murderer and the oppressor. Where do I go with that?
You go to forgiveness, you go to acceptance, you go to realizing that you're neither of them. You are the consciousness in which the whole story emerges. It's an expression of self. It's all of it is you.
And do I still gather in a circle with people?
If you want to, but you don't need to. The thing is, we're already As soon as we say we're searching, we already are gone, because I'm already home, I'm already here. This already is. So to say I'm searching means I'm ignoring or avoiding or forgetting that I'm already here. There's no search, there's nothing required.
I'm not searching. I live on top of a mountain by myself. I come for humanness, for love, for just energy. I'm not really searching.
Sharing.
Yeah. It feels good. Reflection.
Again, who we are,
Reflection.
I can be in peace. The state that I'm speaking of, which is already present in all of us, there's a state in us that is just openness, beingness, presence, just the sense of being here. It doesn't have any content. And if we're quiet, that's what we feel, just, I'm here. And that's what we are. That's what I am. I'm here. I'm presence. And that presence doesn't ever go away. And my life can look like shit. Terrible things could be happening. I have terrible feelings. And that place doesn't go anywhere. I can always rest as I'm watching the battle. I can always know at some level that it's happening, but that's not me. Yes, please.
I have just some reflections on what you're saying. I hope I can get it out, but when Bush said axis of evil, things got way worse. If we take ourselves, and part of it, like since the beginning of recorded time, we've always had someone to hate. It doesn't matter where we live. We always have someone to hate, and it's like it's almost important for our psychology. I would say it is for the psychology we have. And so as long as there's, you know, this evil part in us, we don't recognize it in us, it's them, then things just we created ISIS by attacking more and more, and they're worse, and they're more and more evil, and so as we project it, so it's coming back to us. And yeah, so it's this division in ourselves that I feel is, and is calling somebody evil instead of calling them our beloved or ourselves or whatever, that's created this whole thing. That's just my thoughts.
For my inner understanding is, it took me through 4 wars, so I have seen it happening on my doorstep. It was as a child, I already accepted it. I sang to them back. It is in acceptance of this is us, too. I was already hearing it as a child, otherwise I will be not here. It's everyone, and each army have been same in some level. There have been many armies that came through. And they are all the time happening. And it is the inner army. Where is our inner army? My mom was telling, to put me by the window, you look how Germans are leaving the country. Who have been those Germans? Who they have been? They have been between them people that they held people from concentration camp. How can be enemy? Where is the enemy? So I couldn't look at it that way. They have to protect that man that gave many people survival. Therefore they would beat him up. So I have seen all those happening, but the only level that I can be in is acceptance of everything. And everything is in divine grace in it. They carried to my place, to our place, one man that was wounded and he was having pneumonia. We have been giving him soup from my beloved birds, the pigeons, therefore he didn't have anything else. And we found out later on, when he was able to sit up, that he is university professor of biology. And I didn't go to school, and I was having tutors from university in my kitchen. And I had to sleep in the bathtub, therefore we didn't have space to sleep. And from him I learned incredible amount of what is really to be humble. So I feel that the divine is very merciful. And this is my only secretary. That I listen in truth. So thank you for opening it up.
Thank you.
I want to say something about mind, because there's two minds that are talked about. It's semantics, right? But there's mind with a capital M, which could be called the higher mind, which is the heart. But then there's the mind that most people associate with logic, with the brain, the lower mind, the one that you get trapped in duality, the mind of duality. Then there's the mind that's beyond duality, which is the higher mind. So it's just a semantic thing I wanted to put out there, because I know that some spiritual traditions, when they talk about mind, they're talking about the heart. And then some, when they're talking about mind, they're talking about the brain or the logic, the duality. Yeah.
I like that. I like mine.
I was like, then the higher mind, is that the I am that I am? The I am presence? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to offer a childhood memory. During the Second World War, we had a prisoner of war camp of Germans, and the whole media was, showing how awful these Germans are, and they have horns growing out, and Satan sticks and all this kind of stuff. And we took a drive through the camp where the prisoners of war were there, and I was scared. I thought these people would be, real demons. And I carefully peeked up on the window of the car, and they looked just like all my German relatives that I knew. My gosh, I couldn't take any of those guys. Just right out of my family. I couldn't believe it. They didn't have horns or demon eyes or anything like that. They were just. I never forgot that. Yeah, they're all relatives.
Yeah, those bad Germans, eh?
I didn't mean any disrespect, but that was it was my heritage as well.
Well, that's good
We
to
were
know.
thinking about changing our name, and all that kind of stuff. We wouldn't be associated with those Nazis,
Jerry, the irony, talk about Nazi Germany, like there was the Tula Society or whatever, and how they thought that they were like, following the Vedic text, thinking he was the savior and stuff. So we got really mixed up in the duality. That's spiritual ego, which is the worst. And that's where people get really messed up. And you want to have ethnic cleansing, and you start justifying things coming from that duality, and the fear is controlling you because you're letting it.
So again, we're talking about an external war, and the internal war is the mirror of that, which means on a practical or personal level, and I think that's why, there's this differentiation between therapy or counseling and spirituality. I think they've got to go together, particularly on the level I'm speaking of now. I need to know, if I don't, as a human being, about all the parts of me that I might not have experienced or that I've run away from, like the parts of me that would kill or torture or hurt. Like, to be friendly with all of me, all of the humanity that everyone is, and only then can I be friendly with humanity and everyone. So it's important on a personal level to know that, and most of us see that. We get triggered enough in our lives, but for those of us who don't know it, we need to just accept it. The war without is the same as the war within. I think it's important for all of us to feel that. And by the way, the clearest symptom of war with yourself is I can't sleep, or tension in your body. Those are signs that you're at war with yourself and you're trying to avoid it. having to always be doing something, turning on the TV or something. It shows you're running from a war. So sit down with it, breathe into it, go into a war, make peace, then make peace with the world. Somebody was going to say something. Yes?
Well, one of the things I think kind of, that I see that can put you off your path to becoming yourself is something that I've heard called a white shadow. I mean, you know what a dark shadow is. You know, you've got this icky stuff, and you've got this terrorist, and you've got this murderer, and all this. These are all part of you. But there's also this, if you don't take personal responsibility for your beauty, for your divinity, and you think, oh, well, he's got it all together, I'm going to follow him, or this book has got all the answers, or whatever it is, and so you give up your responsibility for your own divinity, and you give it to somebody else, and then you follow them, and then you follow them over the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, so I think one of the ways out of the duality is, okay, what is my divine self? Who is my divine self? It's me. It's and divinity is all of us, as well as, you know, the duality of the mind. But, you know, I think it's easy to think that, and I don't necessarily come to, this is not my white shadow. I don't come here because I think you're going to give me all the answers. I come here because you remind me of why I'm here, of why I'm on this planet. You know, I come here to listen to Jerry or whomever, but I'm listening to myself. Oh yeah, that's what's up today. And what's my responsibility, you know, in responding to that or not? Does that deserve a response? Yeah, I get that. I can respond to that. And how do I respond to that in a way that honors and recognizes the divinity and the consciousness that I am? And I meaning I and thou.
So why am I here? Where have I come from, and why am I here?
Why am I in a hand basket?
Basket?
Never mind. It's a bad joke.
Different experience.
Well, why am
Experience.
Experience.
I have something to share. Again, really interesting and important that you brought up the, you know, it's like bringing up the shadow, which is part of all of us. I was in a course once 10 years ago with a world famous martial artist, and he and his wife were doing this course, and it was incredible. They were first trying to help us understand the fundamental differences between the male and female brain and heart, because it's actually biologically different and psychologically very different, and that was really enlightening. Then part of the process was helping, like, they were helping how women have to have a look at their shadow and men look at their shadow is very different, how we do it, just because of how different we are here and there. And it was so enlightening and taught me so much, especially about men. He and his men took the guys into the deepest, darkest regions of their mind that they were afraid of their whole life, which reflected out all the stuff he talked about, all this. And it was incredible how frightened they were of it, but once they were there, it was, and then came back, it was the most empowering thing to all of them. There was 1,000 people in our group. Like, all the men said that helped them so much to live in the world now, having visited it, look at it, realize how much it's coming from that lower mind, and the conditioning, and everything, past lives, whatever. And it blew the women away. The men were so much in their power after that all the women were like, all the women were like grounded and like looking at the men very differently. So the women had a different process. They had a different process. It was like the women already were worried about that stuff their whole lives, worried about their kids and people getting hurt, and like a whole different process to get the women to the same place. But the men and the women collectively, so the energy was incredible how much they appreciated each other after that. It's yeah. I don't know if it's coming out, if you can feel what I'm saying.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, so it's really a huge important thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of doing a group called Psychotherapy and Spirituality. And basically it's going to be an exploration of what's required. Do I want one or the other? Do I need both? How are they different? And a process like you just described is essential for men, for example, to explore that shadow self. You can't let it go, you can't let anything go unless you're aware of it, unless you can know what it is. That's why you can't forgive. Like people say, well, I'll forgive my parents. And it's a great idea, but if you don't really know what you're forgiving them for, if you don't remember how you were affected by them, the forgiveness doesn't have the same power. So to let something go, you gotta know. I guess it's a bumper sticker.
The only way out is through.
Exactly. And if you read the Course in Miracles, which I have done, the language there shocks me very often because it uses words like murder and torture and killing and contempt and betrayal and in really forceful ways describing our nature, the nature of ego. That we are killers, we are murderers, and we are incapable of loving anyone or anything. Incapable of it. All we can do is lie about it. That's the only thing ego, because the ego is just a thought system. How could it love anyone, right? So the Course in Miracles screams these things out, but people sort of forget about it and kind of think it's like airy-fairy. We'll go love each other and have a nice party. It's not that way at all in the Course in Miracles.
Well, I don't know much about the Course in Miracles, but why does that sound terribly negative to me? Don't they kind of bring out the positive in us as well?
Totally. But they need to describe and understand the negative so you can recognize it, let it go, not identify with it.
Not identify with the nastiness.
Yes. Recognize it and then realize that it's not you.
Oh, that's more or less what you were talking about.
But you have to look at it. I'm just trying, it's funny how I can't quite remember the female process because I was in it. I was really watching the male process because it blew all the women away. Like, never felt that kind of power coming from men and grounding ever in our lives. It was amazing. And I'm just going to try to remember the female part. But the female part was more, because we have a womb and we have bring beings through to be on the planet, we have so many things connected with that, right? That it can overwhelm you. The protection of humans can be so overwhelming. And that was where it was really hard at first to forgive who would hurt your children. So we had to go through a whole thing of how do you forgive people who've abused your children when you've done everything you can to protect them. And you feel like a failed warrior, right? So there you go. We had to get rid of the failed warrior thing. And forgiveness. Like we did do everything we could to protect the children, and it still happened. So that is the nature of the beast here in the world. We have to go deeper and deeper in our forgiveness.
Yeah, it reminds me of Gandhi when he got shot. The last thing that he did was say to the guy who shot him, "I forgive you, my son," something like that.
He also said Ram.
Ram.
He said Ram.
Ram.
The Ram.
Yeah.
It is a hard mantra. Hard Ram. This is what he said when he was having last breath.
Yeah, that's kind of what's the book I'm reading right now. I think the writer is Malin, called Malin. And he says to look at the others, I don't know if this is right, to like the thief or the murderer, basically they're doing that because they need to see the love side inside of them and not tell them you're bad, to see, does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah? Oh, good.
So the call for love then.
Yeah, right, and not say, ooh, but see that there was a reason for that, the love they were missing or they needed or something.
They're seeking love
Right.
in those strange ways.
Right, right, exactly, right. Oh, good, so I understood that right. Okay, good.
One fact to back that up is that every single murderer on Skid Row is, they did huge research, every single one of them came from the most abusive families ever.
Yeah.
So the ones who are driven to do those things have been really so very hurt, and that's how their human condition could do what they did. So,
Well, I saw something very beautiful and very puzzling. It's this couple and the woman is done and the man, he really loves her still, but she moves on and she goes with other men, and the man, he's friend with the new man and he's friend with this female still, and this goes on and it's genuine. I was checking because I so would not react like that, and that bedazzled me. So maybe the Course of Miracles should allow for some exception that some of us can truly love, or I haven't read it yet, but from what I hear you saying, we're incapable of loving one another.
The ego.
It means we're incapable of unconditionally loving. It means if the person is behaving in a way that we expect or desire, we can think we love them, but as soon as they attack us or act in a way that we feel betrayed by or hurt by or lied to, something we don't like, very quickly, love. That's why the main cause of murder in our society is wives killing husbands. They're in love with each other and they kill each other because that's what really what it is.
That's the small love.
Yeah.
That's not the real love.
It's the love of ego.
Right.
It's the love of Jerry and, you know,
That's right.
it's the kind of thing.
I've witnessed the opposite, and it's mind-boggling. It's beautiful.
When you really love somebody, you
Yeah.
love them. You don't. It's not conditional.
Right.
And it's like a
So
family
that's
love.
what you would call a higher love.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
unconditional. But that's not of ego. Ego is incapable of that.
Well, it's quite beautiful to see. Relentless.
You just have to love all creation, period.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
That's what Dostoevsky said. I mentioned it last week after the meditation. Love all creation. Love every leaf, every plant, every ray of golden light. And then, you know, you'll come to the universal abiding love, which is that true self that Joe's talking about, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
What do you say we take a couple of minutes to close our eyes as a way of ending this thing? Take a moment to notice that you are existing. You're thinking what you're thinking, feeling what you're feeling, and you're aware of those things. And every second, your awareness changes. As each word that I speak gives you a different sensation in your ear. Everything I say gives you a thought. But your awareness is constant. Your awareness is silent. Watching these thoughts. Watching you listen. Let yourself relax into this place of peace in you that is always watching. Place in you that is totally non-resistant, totally open, totally accepting of everything and everyone. Total peace. spaciousness, infinite. Something that we're always resting in. Notice the thoughts coming in and out. They come and they go, and you can be aware of this peace at the same time. You can always choose to focus on this peace instead of what you're thinking. Take this moment to notice the difference between your consciousness and thinking. This thinking is coming up into your consciousness, that you are the consciousness that's watching it. You're watching a thinking machine. Notice you have a choice but to go into the thinking machine's thoughts or to stay with peace. As you enter the sweetness of that consciousness, you begin to long to be there, because that's home. Home right here already. What you gotta do is notice it. We're already home. Nothing to learn. Nothing to do. In the place that we all have, I call heaven. When you get used to being in this silent place, the mind just feels like that noisy TV. You just want to more like a commercial you hear on TV. It's gross, turn it off. And I see our time's just about up, so I thank you for your attention. It's been fun.
Yeah, it certainly has. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, let's see what the Course of Miracles has to say for each of us. Maybe I should pray.
To change the subject, you may have heard that a group of scientists this week have shown that the Big Bang didn't really occur as spoken or as thought, that the universe has existed forever. There was no beginning and there has been no beginning. And this is what quantum mathematics is showing to the scientific world. And the spiritual communities that have the Big Bang as a center of the belief system are going to have to do a little wobbling around.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all wobbling anyway.
Yeah,
really,
it's always going to be like that.
Yeah.
So difficult to imagine that. No
It's a-
beginning, I mean.
Yeah.
I saw something that showed, is it Lanacadia or Lana something? And it showed it looks like a whole huge neuron as a set of neurons. And our Milky Way is way down in the back country, way over here in one universe, and that we're one of multiple universes. And now I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes me feel way better for some reason.
You can see that all of the galaxies are all connected by these strings, just like the neuropeptides.
Yes, yes.
Just like the mycelia, it's exact.
Looks
It's the same
exactly
thing.
like what's in
Different
our heart and
scale.
brain.
Different scales.
That still doesn't explain where it all started and why and how and which.
It's like a Maya. It's all an illusion. It's all a reflection. It's very interesting.
There's a very interesting course, by the way, happening. Do you, anybody knows Wayne Holmes? Wayne Holmes, he's the astronomer, and he talks about that. He's a course at Self-Design High. Yeah, it's very good. Talks about how the all kind of.
Yeah, like it's really beautiful that mainstream science is going to have to go through another schizophrenic crack-up.
Yeah.
You know, the sun isn't at all what we thought. It's not this nuclear furnace thing. All the evidence is saying, "Oh, sorry, that was wrong." So it keeps changing. And the speed of light is starting to change. Like it's all changing.
Can't trust nothing these days.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's right. It's all keeps changing. It's a continuous. Yeah, that's right.
I like the works of Greg Braden, who says we're now 100 or 150 years behind the sciences in what we're accepting.
Yes.
And of course, he postulates that, you know, big money has a lot to do with it.
It's true. You're not going to be able to write a thesis, get funding for a certain research because it's too fringe, even though it's evidentially true.
Okay, so shall we blast off? Those who offer peace to everyone have found a home in heaven the world cannot destroy. It's kind of what we've been talking about.
Think for an instant on just this. You can behold the holiness of God. You can behold the holiness God gave His Son, and never need you think that there is something else for you to see.
Peace is the condition of knowledge, because it is the condition of the kingdom. Knowledge can be restored only when you meet its conditions.
I noticed these cards are all the airy-fairy quotes from the Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
Airy-fairy. None of the
darkness in
well,
those
I think
cards.
there's a couple dark ones.
Well, not the hates and the killings.
No, there's some in there.
Are there? Oh, good.
We just don't get them.
Yeah.
What we get is what the speaker has spoken about.
Yeah.
Where God is, there are you. Such is the truth.
All right.
What is not love is always fear and nothing else.
Everything is for your own best interests.
That's it.
That's everything. Everything.
Read it again.
Everything is for your own best interests.
Whether you know it or not.
Get your head around that.
God is praised whenever any mind learns to be a lowly help.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, I
Lowly
know, it's
helpful.
kind of a puzzle. God is praised whenever any mind learns to be lowly
Helpful.
Helpful.
Your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind.
That's pretty good.
Love it.
Yeah.
It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful.
Is it deep?
In everyone you see, but the reflection of what you choose to have him to you.
Health is the result of relinquishing all attempts to use the body lovelessly.
Nice.
It is not up to you to change your brother,
but merely to accept him as he is. Any attempt you make to correct a brother means that you believe correction by you is possible, and this can only be the arrogance of the ego. That's what you were talking about. You always get whatever the speaker is talking about. Here we go.
Do you prefer that you be right or happy?
Right.
If nothing but the truth exists, right-minded seeing cannot see anything but perfection.
Fear of the will of God is one of the strangest beliefs the human mind has ever made.
It is impossible to remember God in secret and alone, for remembering God means we are not alone and we're willing to remember it.
Be comforted and feel the Holy Spirit watching over you in love, in perfect confidence in what he sees.
I place the peace of God in your heart and in your hands to hold and share. The heart is pure to hold it, and the hands are strong to give it. We cannot lose.
The sight of Christ is all there is to see. The song of Christ is all there is to hear. The hand of Christ is all there is to hold. There's no journey but to walk with him.
Nice.
So there. I don't know what I think about.
It's kind of partisan, isn't it?
A little, yeah.
We could have added Krishna or Buddha in there
Or her.
and equalized it a bit.
I like to put the her in there sometimes.
But I don't know, like I've often sort of wrestled with that, Christianity thing, and but when you think of it, what does he, the man, represent but purity and love and power and connectedness to the source. So really, that image is the embodiment of the model, I guess, or the attracting power or alliance with or drawing from, because when he left, he said, has that capability of being with us still. So that has to be in our hearts. So really, he is the model, but it does sound partisan, yeah. But yeah, I think you just have to let it go.
And it's a metaphor. And
yeah.
You get stuck on the metaphor.
Yeah.
But you don't need to get stuck.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because that's just our ego anyway.
Yes.
Right? I got over that on myself personally by just going, it's all God. You know? And Christianity came around 500 years after Christ. So nobody can own that consciousness. That's for all.
Right.
So that settled it in me, and I didn't get triggered anymore.
Right. Yeah, well said.
Another book I was reading, and this is supposed to be funny, is Christianity all the time, through centuries, has been talking about sin all the time. S-I-N.
Yeah. Right.
S-I-N now means social insurance number.
Or slave identification number.
But it also means without.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, in Spanish it means without.
Oh, or to miss the shot in archery, right?
Oh yeah, missing the mark.
Yes,
Missing the mark.
That's right.
Or unright. That's another.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's the S-I-N? Yeah. Social insurance number.
Okay.
Here we go.